This is how this story goes. The deal is done, you've closed on your home, you've handed over the keys, and you thought you moved on with your life. Then 3 months later, you get a letter from an attorney and the buyer is now suing you. This happens more than people think. And most of the time, the seller had no intention of deceiving anyone. They just didn't know what they were supposed to disclose, how to say it, or what could come back and bite them. If you are getting ready to sell your home, or maybe you're at least starting to think about it, this video could save you from a very expensive and a very stressful situation. I'm going to walk you through the 5 most common mistakes home sellers make that open themselves up to lawsuits and exactly what to do or say instead. My name is Erin Coker and I am a realtor here in Atlanta. Hit that subscribe button to stay ahead of the real estate advice that most people never get. And when you're ready, you can book a call with me. The link is in the first line in the description below. Okay, let's get into it. The first mistake is misrepresenting your home's features. This one catches a lot of home sellers off guard because most of the time they're really not trying to mislead anyone. They're just describing their home the way they see it. And here's where it gets tricky. Words like newer, updated, like new mean different things to different people. You might say the windows are newer because you replaced them 10 years ago, but a buyer reading that listing description is reading windows that are maybe 4 or 5 years old at most. And that gap between what you, the seller, meant and what the buyer understood is where lawsuits are born. There is an actual real estate case study where a seller listed their windows as newer. The buyer got to the final walkthrough, so what you do right before you go to closing and you sign all the paperwork, and on the counter, that seller left all kinds of receipts and paperwork for all the stuff they had done over the years. Well, guess what? There was a receipt in there showing where they put in the windows 10 years ago. And immediately the buyers saw it and they got really upset because they felt misled. They demanded $10,000 at closing because they said, well, the windows were newer and they didn't feel like they were. The seller refused and the deal fell apart. So the buyers ended up not closing that day. Well, ultimately, the seller ended up selling, the house went back on the market, they sold it to someone else. Then listen to this. A few months later, they got sued by those original buyers for misrepresentation. And it dragged on in court for months. And after attorney fees and the back and forth and the time and everything that was spent on this, those sellers actually ended up paying those original buyers $10,000 just to make the problem go away. So with that being said, here's the fix. Put a year on everything. Don't say newer roof. Put roof replaced in 2019. Don't say HVAC is newer or updated. Say HVAC replaced in 2021. Dates eliminate interpretation. And if you don't have documentation for something, then don't mention it in the listing at all. And honestly, a buyer will know if those things are in good shape anyway, because when they go to do a home inspection, that info is not going to make or break a sale anyway, I promise. The second mistake is not disclosing known defects. This is a big one. And the rule I want you to remember is simple. Disclose, disclose, disclose. That is like one of the only things that they just repeated over and over and over again when I was getting my real estate license. It's really that important. If you know about it, it needs to be disclosed. No questions, full stop, no item is too small. So for example, that one time that your basement got water in it because a hurricane hit Atlanta, the basement has never flooded before and it has never flooded after, doesn't matter. You have to disclose it. Maybe the 3 termites you found 10 years ago and then you had it treated immediately, disclose it with documentation. Maybe the foundation cracked that you had a professional look at and that professional said, don't worry about it, it was cosmetic. Disclose it and attach the report if you can. Here's why this protects you. Once something is disclosed and the buyer signs and acknowledges that they have received that information, you have a paper trail. You told them, they knew. That's very different. That's a very different legal position than a buyer finding out after closing that you knew something and didn't say anything. And just so we're clear, selling a home as is does not get you off the hook for disclosing things. Every home is technically sold as is. It's written in our contracts that way. So there's no return policy, there's no warranty, there's no lemon law for existing homes. But as is doesn't mean you can conceal known defects. It just doesn't work that way, and a buyer can still sue you regardless of what that contract says. They will try it, and they do. The third mistake is recording buyers without disclosing it. Smart technology has honestly made this really easy and really common nowadays. The doorbell cameras, indoor security cameras, smart speakers. A lot of sellers forget they have them running or forget they have them running when buyers are walking through the house. In Georgia, recording inside your home isn't illegal, but your real estate agent is really supposed to disclose that cameras are present. The legal question is almost beside the point. The real problem is what happens when a seller actually uses what they heard to negotiate against a buyer. This can put you in a lot of hot water. This is where it stops being a privacy debate or a security issue and it starts being a fraud conversation. The easy fix is put a sign at every entry point before showing start. Something simple like, this home contains audio and video recording devices. One sign at the front door takes 30 seconds and it protects you almost completely. The fourth mistake are fair housing violations. And this one happens almost entirely by accident, and that's what makes it so dangerous. You love your neighborhood, your neighbors love your neighborhood, and when someone casually mentions they would love to see another family move in, it's completely innocent. Until that sentiment shows up in how you market the home, or even worse, how you choose between offers. So describing your home as being in a family neighborhood is a fair housing violation. Choosing an offer because the buyers wrote a letter saying that they have kids, that could be discrimination against a buyer who doesn't have children. Fair housing laws protect people regardless of familial status, and the violations are often unintentional. When you're reviewing offers, so if you get multiple offers and you're looking through them, make your decision based on concrete terms like price, financing, timelines, contingencies, things that could easily be argued in court. If a buyer submits a letter to your listing agent, probably the safest thing to do is just to ask your listing agent to not pass that on to you. Because if it does, and a buyer gets upset that they didn't get the house and they start digging as to why, because they felt like they put in a really strong offer, and they start digging into why you chose that person's offer over theirs, and they found out that they wrote a letter and they have kids and you don't, I'm telling you, you are going to put yourself in a huge legal mess potentially. Okay, the fifth mistake, not having a paper trail. Everything in real estate is a transaction and it should be in writing. Everything. If you tell your agent something verbally, follow it up with an email. If a buyer's agent calls and asks questions about the property, have your agent respond in writing. If you've had work done on the home, keep the receipts, the permits, the invoices, all of it. A paper trail isn't just good practice. It's your protection. And when a dispute comes up, and sometimes they do, the person with the documentation wins. And the person that said, well, I told them about it over the phone, verbally, it's a much harder position to be in, especially in court. And if you're thinking about selling your home and maybe you want to know what repairs are actually worth making before you list, then the next video is for you. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you on the next one.